Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today I've got another deck profile, Post Dune. This is a really cool set. I don't think it has like a super huge amount of like super high level meta impact, but I do think it has a lot of decks that go from being unplayable to like actually really solid options in the format, whether it be encroaching on tier 1, tier 2 solidly, or just like a really high tier rogue deck. Respectively. So today we're looking at Rescue Ace. This is a really cool deck. I actually have a sweet spot for this deck. My family actually has had multiple generations of firefighters. I am not, because I'm not legally allowed to, but everything else, everybody else in my family kind of has at some point or another had some connection to it. So it's really cool. I've always liked the aesthetic. They are a really cool mid-range deck now with the 2 new pieces of support from this set. And let's just get into it. So this list is not going to be super different. I think it's going to be hard to find like super different Rescue Ace lists that still hold up in terms of a competitive scene, but I'm going to give you my thoughts on the deck and run through the list that I have here. You start off here with Hydrant. This is probably the centerpiece of the deck. There's a couple actually cards that are really important, but this card is really huge because it searches you any monster. So it's your monster searcher, your Stratos. It also gives you other benefits. He protects himself while you have other Rescue Ace monsters on the field, so your opponent can't go for him as easily to clear him off the field. And he says once per turn you can activate a set Rescue Ace quick play spell. I believe, is it quick play spell or trap? Yeah, or trap the turn it was set. So it allows you to kind of push forward a little bit more when you set a bunch of stuff off of Turbulence, which is pretty cool. Moving on. 3 copies of Rescue Ace Impulse. This is Havness for the deck. If your opponent activates a monster effect on field, you can tribute Impulse from hand or field to summon a Rescue Ace from deck. So going second, this allows you to get your engine going before you even try to start playing on your opponent's on your next turn, which is really nice. And if you open this with either of the extenders, Fire Attacker or Fire Engine, you actually can get an interruption. You can get a Book of Moon on turn 0 going second, which is pretty cool. A really cool card to be able to like get access to for the deck. It's a really good card for like a mid-range based strategy, which is exactly what this deck is. From there, move to the next normal summon, Airlifter. This one searches a spell. This is your 1-card combo. Turbulence Hydrant, isn't actually a 1-card play by itself. It does like a small thing, but it doesn't actually get you to Turbulence all the way, whereas Airlifter does. It actually has a really good 1-card combo. I'll show you at the end of the video real quick, the 1-card combo that I saw like Pack and Nesh developed. I think it's really good. I think you should be playing it because the extra doesn't even matter in the deck anyway, and you have to play no extra bricks on top of that. But yep, really good card, just searches you a spell. Another Stratos for the deck. Who would have thought those are good? For the extenders, the guys I was talking about when I was mentioning Impulse, you have 1 copy of Fire Attacker, 2 copies of Fire Engine. These both say, they're kind of like Kagemuchi a little bit. When a Rescue Ace is normal or special summoned, they can just special from hand, so they can chain block certain things, but also they offer some really nice benefits as well. Fire Attacker, if your opponent adds a card from their deck to the hand, except during draw phase, I think, this card can draw you 2, discard 1. So this is what you would normally summon off of Impulse if you really wanted to like dig for a hand trap, like you wanted to find an Ash, you wanted to find some going second cards, and you didn't open one of these already with the Impulse going second, right? Because just try to cycle 2, get yourself into some of those board breaking cards or hand traps and go from there. But really nice card there. And then Fire Engine. This card says if your opponent special summons, period. Just ever special summons, you can just special summon a level 4 or lower Rescue Ace from the deck. So just gets a ton of resources rotating turn 1 because you're able to just like summon Airlifter, search a spell. So just by using Impulse going second in terms of just how much of your engine is turned on already, you've already used Fire Engine. If your opponent special summons on your turn, boom, you're getting another summon from deck. You've already summoned Airlifter, so you have 2 bodies that are pretty big, and you have a spell in hand that you search. So it's a ton of value off of 1 card. So very cool. Those are the extender guys. You don't want to play too many of those because they do need you to open like a starter to kind of get them going, but they definitely are worth. You definitely have to play 1 and 1, I would think. But Fire Engine to me is like the better extender to open. So and like going second. So I kind of like that. From there, move to the big boys. You're technically like your 2 boss monsters for the deck. The first one is Preventer. This is the first of the 2 new cards. He has a couple different things. He can banish any Rescue Ace card from grave to summon. Very easy. When he is sent to graveyard, period, even from deck, he can summon back a Rescue Ace monster from banish. And if he's on the field and you control another Rescue Ace monster, he has a quick effect, Book of Moon effect. So just 3 solid effects. He's not broken by any means, but on top of an already kind of developed archetype, it's a really, really nifty card, and he really helps push the deck going forward. And the last one is your boss monster. This is really what the deck revolves around, Turbulence. This is your play. If this resolves, you're probably in a really good spot. If it doesn't resolve, you're playing Yu-Gi-Oh. But yeah, card's really cool. It has another like 3 effects. Banish 2 Rescue Ace cards from grave to special summon himself. Once per turn, you can set up to 4 Rescue Ace quick play spells or trap cards from the deck. We'll get to those in a little bit. Absolutely broken effect because it sets, it doesn't search, so it can't be ashed. So only really stuff like Imperm and Veiler really respond to this guy well. And lastly, if any other card or cards you control leaves the field by an opponent's card effect, you can just target a card on the field and destroy it. That's the kind of effect where I feel like early on in this deck's inception, I think people will kind of overlook that effect and play right into it, and you can kind of punish them at times. So just keep an eye on that 3rd effect for sure, because you'll probably get some free value out of that moving forward. Okay, into the like generic stuff. Triple Ash. I do think you need to play Ash, not just because it's like pretty solid in the format, but because this deck can actually make use of like Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf to add any fire from grave back to hand. So reloading Ashes can be pretty nifty in simplified board states for sure. And then the only other monster I play is Tudrol. I was looking for defensive slots. I think I have 11 defensive slots in this deck outside of the engine and everything, which is okay, which is like fine, but you definitely gotta be selective on that. Tudrol, I'm not fully certain on Droll in this format, but obviously you can just swap these hand traps for anything else you might want for going second. Then we get to the actual engine spells. Triple Emergency. This is the other new card we got. This card is incredible. It's Emergency Teleport. It summons any Rescue Ace from deck and then tributes a Rescue Ace. So you do not get to keep the monster if it's the only one, if you don't already have something on field, which is kind of unfortunate. But it's still really, really good. It can also banish itself from grave to reset a Rescue Ace trap from grave. Rora, she's going crazy. Okay, moving on. The other 3 spells we play: 1 Rescue, 1 Alert, and 1 HQ. I kind of mix these 2 up sometimes, so I want to make sure I get these right. Okay, cool. So Rescue, this one lets you target a Rescue Ace monster in your graveyard and special summon it. But if you control Hydrant, you can actually target any monster in your opponent's grave as well and reborn it as well. No restrictions on that. So the monster can activate its effects, it can attack. That's actually pretty neat. You could steal something like a Barone or something and just have a negate in specific scenarios, or it could be a graveyard interruption on them. Cool card. Alert. This one can add any Rescue Ace monster from grave to hand, but if you control Hydrant, you can actually just add straight from deck to hand, so it gets a little bit better when you have Hydrant as well. And then Rescue Ace HQ. This is a really good card. I think it's an important one of in the deck for like when games are going to get grindy. This card has 3 different effects. It gives you an additional normal summon for Rescue Ace. Fine. That doesn't come up all the time though. This deck isn't super normal summon heavy. 2, you can, hold on, I want to make sure. Yeah, it gives 500 attack and defense to Rescue Aces while your opponent controls a monster. And 3, you can target up to 4 Rescue Ace cards, either in grave or banish, shuffle them into the deck, or put them on the bottom of the deck. No, it does shuffle them. Shuffle them and then draw 1 card. So gets you a draw, resets these spells and traps that you don't want to open, and once you set them off of Turbulence once, you want to be able to cycle those again to get them again in a grind. And the 500 does come up. This is something I didn't really mention. These monsters in this deck are ginormous. So Hydrant's tiny, that's the only one. But other than that, Impulse, like taking the 500 buff into account with HQ, Impulse is 2,000, Lifter is 22, Attacker is 27, Engine is 3K, Preventer is 33, and Turbulence is 35. So Like between 2K and 35 is where most of these monsters like can end up once you get HQ set up, and it's pretty crazy. This deck can run over some big boards fairly easily. All right, for some extra consistency spells, Triple Prosperity. This deck's extra deck is not super integral. There's definitely some stuff, some utility stuff we use, and the combo stuff that I'll show you. But it's not super integral, so Prosperity is like an easy one. Plus, when you really look at starters in the deck, you really have to find them, right? You have to find Hydrant. Impulse isn't even a starter going first. It's a better card going second, to be honest. And then Airlifter. So it's Airlifter, Hydrant, and then I guess you could call Emergency, but you also want to put a monster on the field before firing Emergency, so you still want to open at least one of these 9. And Impulse isn't even a good one there, but at least if it's with Emergency, you can play. So it is kind of awkward, right? So we really want to be able to find Hydrant and Airlifter as often as possible. Speaking of which, we also play 1 Rhoda and 1 for 1. 1 for 1 just gets Hydrant. This is actually really good because you get Hydrant out without normal summon, so then Hydrant can just get Airlifter, and then Airlifter combo like pretty much goes off from there, which is kind of cool. And then Rhoda obviously getting either Impulse or Airlifter. That's more than enough. Good targets there. And for the only defensive spell I played was Triple Book of Moon. So I will say this. I went to locals this week with a different deck playing Book of Moon in it, and it was god awful. I probably drew it like 4 or 5 times, and it was maybe okay once. And every other time it was like actively bad. Like I scooped with Book of Moon still in hand or set, and I was like, this isn't doing anything this duel kind of scenario. It was really quite awful, unfortunately. Now, that by saying that, I mean, listen, this card has a really cool utility in this deck, same as kind of Floowandereeze, where if your opponent tries to Imperm or Veiler your Turbulence, which is really the only way they interact with this card on your turn 1, mainly, you just kind of book it and dodge those effects and still resolve to set 4, which is really strong, right? So that interaction is really good, but that being said, you still can't just play this card because of that interaction. It still needs to be good in the format. I'm not fully convinced it is yet. I need to do more testing with it, but it's pretty awful versus Labyrinth. It's pretty awful versus Scareclaw. It's pretty awful versus freaking, what's it called? Branded. And so those are some of the higher level decks in the format. So just be wary of that. I know it's good versus Cash, but I think a lot of people are off Cash right now because they're expecting it to get hit in less than a month. All right, then we get to the traps. 1 Extinguish, 1 Contain. These cards are really good. These two I confuse sometimes. Yeah, Contain is the one that targets an effect monster your opponent controls, and it kind of just like blanks that card. It negates it, it says it can't attack, and then if you controlled Hydrant, it makes it so that monster can't be used for Fusion, Synchro, or Exceed, or Link material. Just can't be used for material from the extra deck for the rest of the turn as well, which is really good. A lot of times that'll just kill a monster on field. It just locks him down. So pretty good there. And then Extinguish, kind of same idea, targets a monster your opponent controls but destroys it. And then if you control Hydrant, your opponent actually can't activate any effects of monsters with that name for the rest of the turn. So if they have other copies, they still can't use them then. And also, even if it's a monster that floats, it does not get to float, essentially. So that's the one. That one's a little better versus Branded. Kill a Mirror Jade, you're not getting wiped on the end phase. Kill an Albion, they're not going to get to set 1 on end phase. Stuff like that, which is kind of cool. And then 3 Imperm, nothing crazy. I mean, I showed the 11 cards. It's 3 Ash, 3 Book, 3 Imperm with 2 Droll as the defensive cards. Obviously, feel free to swap those around. They're just generic. They're just good right now. But that is 40 in the main. Moving to the extra real quick, we'll zoom through this. 1 Almirage. This is important to clear Hydrant in certain quick little nifty combos. 1 Sunlight Wolf, because you can do a cool 1-card combo with Hydrant, where you go like Hydrant, link it off for Almirage, Hydrant, or after you search Preventer, then you Preventer summon, link Preventer and Almirage into Sunlight Wolf, then Preventer summons the Hydrant from Banished back under Sunlight Wolf, and you get to add a fire from grave back to hand. Kind of cool. Hita, I expect there to be more just fire stuff floating around the format, whether it's Infernobles, whether it's the mirror match with this deck, Ash Blossom, so I do think Hita could be kind of nice here. 1 Phoenix and Heat Soul, finishing out like the more generic cards. Phoenix, the deck just doesn't have a ton of back row removal inherently, so I just wanted something to be able to go after back row with. And Heat Soul, you can make him relatively easy in the deck, so why not? He's a little awkward still, but like he's fine. You could still draw some cards off of him. This little package is really nifty. So like I always knew Proxy-F would come up at some point down the line, but it's really cool in this deck. You pretty much just use him plus any other fire to make Mud Dragon, and then Mud Dragon make itself fire. Then when you summon Turbulence to use his effect, nobody can target Turbulence. So he can't be ashed, and now he can't be targeted by Veiler or Imperm or any of those negators. So he's pretty much just free to resolve. It's just an insulation package to make sure Turbulence resolves. Plus, even after that, it's going to make your board harder to deal with, for sure. And then literally the last 8 slots are all just for the 1-card combo that I'll show you in a sec. You have Link Karibo, you have Link Decoder for the Link 1s, Ripperdokus to make something Cyber, so you can do the combo right. This is Protect Code Talker. Funny enough, the 1 card I don't have here I think is a common from the last core set. I just never picked it up. It pretty much just reborns itself if you control a Firewall Link and it points up so you can co-link it. Regular Firewall, it's part of, you just need it for the combo, it gets you free add back. Then Tempest, this is what you go into so that you don't lose to board breakers, stuff like Evenly Matched and Lightning Storm and stuff. So you pretty much just make this, send this is a spell and trap negate from grave, and then on the opponent's turn you can quick send this to get an extra negate as well. It's a cool package, and then this card like kills your opponent on the next turn. Yeah, so pretty cool there. Let me show you the 1-card combo real quick. Hopefully I don't duff it up. I just went through it before this video started to make sure I remembered how it went. It's just Airlifter. And now Airlifter already is 1-card combo to just get Turbulence, which is already pretty strong. But if you want to go like for a higher ceiling combo, you're not worried about nib, and you just want to go as high ceiling as possible so you don't lose to board breakers, this is what you're going to do. So we're going to normal summon Airlifter. He's going to use his effect, and of course he's going to search Emergency. We're going to use Emergency's effect, Tributing Airlifter to summon Hydrant. Well, you summon Hydrant, then Tribute, but yeah, summon Hydrant, then Hydrant's effect is going to activate, and we're going to go ahead and just get straight into Turbulence. We're going to fire him right away, banishing Airlifter and Emergency. And then we're going to use Turbulence immediately. Now this is interesting because if they do negate us here, then like we are in some trouble. So like this plays around board breakers, but it also plays like straight into imperms and stuff, kind of, even though there are still some things we can do from here. It's not great though. It's definitely not good. Actually, it's not good at all. We'd have to have extra cards in hand, but still, assuming we have nothing else, it's all just defensive cards in hand. I believe what we're going for here is like just the everything but Emergency. So Alert, Rescue, Extinguish, and Contain. Hopefully you guys can see these kind of at the top here. So keep in mind that Hydrant allows you to activate one of your quick play spells or traps the turn it is set. So we're actually going to go ahead and use Alert immediately. This is the one that's a searcher if you just have Hydrant on the field already. So we're going to go straight into Preventer here. And then we're going to start playing. So we're gonna banish our Hydrant to go ahead and make ourselves Link Karibo. And I'm doing this upside down, so it's a little bit awkward for me as well. Then we're going to use Preventer's effect to banish Hydrant from grave. We are going to link off Preventer and Link Karibo into Ripperdokus. Preventer's going to trigger to go ahead and summon the Hydrant back to the zone that Ripperdokus points to. We're going to use Ripperdokus effect targeting, sorry, this should be engrave, targeting the Hydrant to make it a Cyberse till the end of the turn. So that way we can use it to make Link Decoder. Then we're going to link these two up into Protect Code. Link Decoder's effect is going to trigger engrave to reborn himself. Then we're going to take Turbulence and your Protect Code to go ahead and make Firewall. While engrave, Protect Code can now reborn itself because you control a Firewall Dragon. Keep in mind this Link 3 points up, so you're co-linked now. So you can actually just fire Firewall Dragon and probably just add back Preventer. It's probably just the best one overall to get back into hand because it's a big body next turn. When it's sent to grave, it's going to summon whatever it banished to get back up. Oh, I'm sorry. One more thing I didn't mention: Protect Code. It needs to banish Link 3s. I think Link 3 worth of material from grave to summon itself. So you banish the Link Karibo and the Ripperdokus. My bet on that. Preventer is in hand, so we'll put him kind of down here. And then we can just straight up take these 3 into Dragonwall Dark Fluid, or Firewall Dragon Dark Fluid Dark Fluid can go ahead and send D-Save Worm, so you now have a spell and trap set up for your opponent's turn, and you also can send Aggregator, quick effect on their turn as well. So you've got the spell and trap negate, you've got your 3 sets, you've got both Extinguish and Contain, you've got Rescue, which just straight up summons one from grave. So you need to just wait and see what your opponent is doing, because if you summon Hydrant, then it's going to make both of your traps stronger as for interruptions. Or if it's like too small and your opponent's just going to run over him, then like obviously you don't want to do that. You can just go for the big body in Turbulence. It'll still turn these on at least, but that's still solid in its own way. So yeah, pretty cool. Yeah, that's your 1-card combo. Hopefully that gave you a good idea at least of the highest ceiling play that the deck can really do off of 1 card. But obviously you do not have to go into that. If you're more scared of Veiler Imperm in that given duel, in that given scenario, you definitely don't want to play into that. You might want to try and go for like look for a Proxy F Magician line instead. But obviously you need to open a hand that can facilitate that. But yeah, the deck's really cool. I'm excited to mess around with it. I like mid-range decks, so this deck kind of fits my style of play. It's really cool. It's got a lot going for it. I'm excited to see what people come up with. I think a lot of duelists will find that like you don't run away with a lot of free duels in this deck, but like the consistency of this deck in terms of like it's mid-range. Like you're not like you don't super brick as much, but you're able to just play every duel. You're able to just make it happen every duel. You don't lose to anything specific in the format that's like crazy. I think it's pretty cool, and I think people will definitely come to appreciate that in the upcoming weeks of the format. So yeah, that's it for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, let me know your thoughts down below on this deck. If you have any suggestions for my build specifically, or just any ideas for Rescue Ace that you think might be interesting, I'd love to hear your thoughts down below on that stuff for sure. But other than that, I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Peace.